You can drink water all day and still feel tired, foggy, or heavy, especially after 55. And if you've ever wondered why the same hydration advice that worked for years suddenly doesn't seem to help anymore, you're not imagining it. Many people quietly blame themselves, thinking they're not drinking enough, not doing it right, or missing something obvious. But the truth is, the body changes with age, and hydration isn't as simple as it used to be. What if the issue isn't how much water you're drinking, but how your body is handling it now? What if hydration is less about the glass in your hand and more about what's happening inside you throughout the day? If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Take a moment and notice how hydration feels in your own body lately. And if you want, share your experience in the comments, because there's one part of hydration most people never hear about. And once you understand it, everything starts to make a lot more sense. You can drink water all day and still feel tired, foggy, or weighed down, especially as the years add up. And when that happens, it can quietly shake your confidence. You start wondering if you're missing something obvious, if you're not doing enough, or if your body is somehow letting you down. For many people over 55, this experience becomes so common that it starts to feel normal. But here's something important to hear right away. If hydration feels different now than it did years ago, you're not imagining it, and you're certainly not failing at taking care of yourself. For decades, we've been taught that hydration is simple. Drink more water, keep a bottle nearby, count your glasses, and for a long time that advice probably worked just fine. But the body you're living in today is not the same body you had at 30 or 40. Aging doesn't mean hydration stops mattering. It means the way your body handles fluids gradually changes, often in quiet ways that don't get much attention. As the years pass, total body water naturally decreases. Tissues can become a bit less elastic. Circulation may not move as effortlessly as it once did. Even the internal signals that tell you when you're thirsty can become softer and less reliable. None of this happens overnight, and because it's subtle, many people don't connect the dots. They keep following the same rules they've always followed, expecting the same results, and feel frustrated when the payoff never quite comes. This is where hydration starts to feel confusing. You're doing what you've been told is right, but the energy doesn't bounce back. The stiffness lingers. The mental clarity you expect never fully shows up. It's easy to assume the solution is simply more water, but hydration isn't just about volume. It's about how the body absorbs, moves, balances, and uses fluid throughout the day. And that's a much bigger picture than most advice ever explains. Water doesn't magically reach every cell the moment you take a sip. Once it enters the body, it has to be absorbed through the digestive system, transported through circulation, distributed between spaces inside and outside cells, and retained long enough to be useful. Each of those steps depends on how well different systems are working together. When any part of that process slows down, hydration can feel incomplete, even when intake seems adequate. One of the most overlooked pieces of this puzzle is circulation. Fluid movement relies on motion within the body. Blood flow, lymph flow, and subtle muscle activity all help guide fluids where they're needed. When movement becomes limited or tissues stiffen, fluids may pool in certain areas or pass through too quickly without being used effectively. That's why sensations like heaviness in the legs, puffiness, or general sluggishness become more common with age. These feelings are often blamed on dehydration alone, but they're frequently connected to how fluids are moving internally. This is where the conversation often takes a turn people don't expect. Supporting hydration isn't only about drinking, it's also about movement. Not intense workouts or gym routines, but gentle, regular motion woven into daily life. When muscles contract and relax, they act like natural pumps, helping push fluids through the body. Even small movements can encourage circulation in ways that make hydration more effective over time. For many older adults, the idea of movement can feel intimidating. There's a common belief that if you're not exercising hard, it doesn't really count, but the body responds far more to consistency than intensity. Small, comfortable movements done regularly can support circulation without strain. They help remind the body how to move fluids upward, inward, and across tissues instead of letting them stagnate. Breathing plays a similar role, though it's rarely mentioned in hydration discussions. Deep, relaxed breathing gently moves the diaphragm, which influences circulation in the chest and abdomen. This internal motion helps support fluid movement around organs involved in digestion and absorption. On the other hand, shallow breathing, often linked to stress, prolonged sitting, or screen time, reduces that natural internal rhythm. Over time, this can subtly affect how efficiently fluids are transported and used. Posture also matters more than most people realize. When the shoulders round forward and the head drifts ahead of the body, it can create tension and compression in the neck and upper chest. This may influence blood flow and contribute to sensations like stiffness, pressure, or even headaches, feelings that are sometimes blamed on dehydration alone. Gentle posture awareness helps open these pathways, allowing fluids to move more freely without any dramatic effort. Taken together, movement, breathing, and posture form a quiet trio that supports hydration from the inside out. None of these require special equipment or intense routines. They simply support the body's natural systems, making it easier for fluids to do what they're meant to do once they're inside you. Another area that often causes confusion is the role of balance, particularly when it comes to minerals. Hydration isn't just about water existing in the body. It's also about where that water goes and how long it stays there. At a general public health level, minerals like sodium and potassium help regulate the movement of fluids between spaces in the body. When balance is off, water may pass through too quickly, leaving you feeling like it never really lands. Over the years, minerals have been oversimplified in health conversations. They're sometimes framed as something to fear or something to aggressively add, when in reality, context matters most. For many people, everyday food choices influence this balance more than they realize. Whole foods naturally contain a mix of minerals that support normal fluid distribution, while highly processed foods can disrupt balance without offering much benefit. This helps explain why hydration can feel different depending on what and how you eat, even when your water intake stays the same. Another challenge that emerges with age is thirst itself. The sensation of thirst is controlled by sensors that detect changes in fluid concentration. As we get older, these sensors don't always respond as quickly or as strongly. That means thirst can show up later than it used to, sometimes after mild dehydration has already begun. Add in busy routines, distractions, climate-controlled environments, and certain medications that affect fluid balance, and it becomes easy to miss early cues altogether. This isn't a personal shortcoming, it's a physiological shift. Many people still rely on thirst as their main signal to drink, not realizing it's no longer the reliable early warning it once was. By the time thirst becomes noticeable, the body may already be playing catch-up. That's why hydration awareness often works better when it's built into gentle habits rather than reactive responses. Modern life adds another layer to the picture. We sit more than ever before. We move less naturally throughout the day. We spend long hours indoors where temperature and humidity are controlled, reducing obvious sweating even though fluid loss still occurs through breathing and the skin. All of this contributes to quiet, gradual dehydration that doesn't announce itself loudly. Instead, it shows up as low energy, difficulty concentrating, muscle discomfort, or a general sense that something feels off. When you step back and look at hydration through this wider lens, it becomes less about strict rules and more about rhythm. The goal isn't to force large amounts of water or follow rigid schedules. It's to support the body's ability to use fluids comfortably and consistently. That means pairing intake with gentle movement, being mindful of posture and breathing, and paying attention to overall balance rather than chasing numbers. A sustainable hydration rhythm fits into real life. It doesn't demand perfection or constant monitoring. For some people, it looks like taking smaller sips more frequently. For others, it means spacing fluids throughout the day instead of consuming large amounts at once. It might involve being more attentive on sedentary days, when fluid loss still occurs even without visible activity. What matters most is consistency without pressure. When hydration becomes something you work with rather than something you battle, the body often responds more positively. Energy levels feel steadier, discomfort becomes easier to manage. That lingering sense of always falling behind begins to fade. And perhaps most importantly, confidence returns. Not because you found a magic solution, but because you understand what your body needs now. If any of this sounds familiar, take a moment to reflect on your own patterns. Not to judge them, but simply to notice them. When do you tend to drink? How does your body feel at different points in the day? Do certain routines make hydration feel easier or harder? Awareness is often the first step toward meaningful change, and it doesn't require drastic adjustments to be powerful. If this perspective has been helpful, consider liking this video or sharing it with someone who might appreciate a calmer, more realistic view of hydration and aging. And if you're comfortable, Share your experience in the comments. Many people are navigating the same questions quietly, and hearing different stories can be reassuring. As we continue, there's even more to explore about how small, everyday shifts can support long-term comfort and clarity, sometimes in ways that feel surprisingly simple once you see the whole picture.